I think we're very quickly realizing that incumbents are pretty fast to adapt to this new technology cycle, and nobody's sort of sitting around, just sort of waiting to be disrupted. And so I think if you were to say, hey, we have an AI first CRM system, I think it'll be more difficult because Salesforce is not going to just like let AI go and disrupt CRM. So
it's been impressive to watch big tech execute right in the last 6 months, 12 months, and it's Microsoft was out in front of this. Google was maybe caught slightly flat-footed in terms of the LLM world, but they've certainly thrown all their resources behind it, right? I'm sure Amazon and Apple are figuring out their strategy. What do you think it is about this? Because none of them are founder-led companies at this point, right? They're all on at least their second, if not their third generation of leadership there, at least the big tech folks, with the exception of Facebook, I guess, with Zuckerberg. What do you think it is? Do you think everyone's just read Andy Grove enough and have been paranoid enough about the prior generations of companies that have become too fat and lazy? Or why do you think they've been able to execute as well as they have here, or at least as paranoid?
Yeah, I'd love to sort of officially dispel the founder the founder concept.
Perfect. Let's do it here.
Let's just the work where this is the breaking this will be the breaking news of the podcast. But listen, as a founder, I think it's like great that when founders are sort of perceived as sort of having some kind of particular intuition on the product of the business. I think a lot of times that's accurate, but this idea that sort of like these big founder led moments of the company, I think we've sort of invented that as a mythology. Like Bob Iger was not the founder of Disney, and he obviously put the most bold stamp of strategic decisions on that company, more than I think anybody would have ever imagined. So I just think that there are executives that are super competent, well read on how disruption theory works, and the reason that they're the CEO of that company, hopefully, is due to their competence. Satya is unequivocally founder or not, just one of the strongest, smartest executives on the planet. So he can just see a technology emerging and realize how big of a deal that's going to be for Microsoft, and decide that that's a moment where you have to kind of pivot the business. Alternatively, I know lots of founders where they're reluctant to do that because the thing looks so different from the thing they created that actually they're not in a position to go and rapidly pivot in that kind of case. So I just think that we have a market right now, to your exact point, that understands Clayton Christensen. Everybody understands disruption. We've sort of seen the examples. We saw what happened to BlackBerry when Android and iPhone emerged. Obviously everybody saw what happened to various chip makers over time as you had new disruptive architectures. We've seen what happened in the 90s to a variety of businesses as the internet kind of went after those companies. And so I think everybody sort of is just well versed in how disruption works. And then it's just about kind of resource alignment. How do you kind of get everybody working in the right direction? The thing that Google faced was actually, counterintuitively, they had too much AI.
My name is Rashad, and I'm the producer of the Logan Bartlett Show. Logan said I'm fired if we don't get to 10,000 subscribers by the end of the year. So if you're enjoying this content, please show your support by subscribing so we can keep growing, and more importantly, so I don't lose my job. Now back to the episode.
It's we got AI everywhere. We, why do we have to go and change something as a result of this? And ostensibly from what I've read, Sundar realized okay, no, we actually have to drive better coordination. We have to execute on the strategy better. And I would say 6 months later after the initial ChatGPT launch, I would say they're in a very strong position. And I don't think I think they aren't at risk of major, kind of business model disruption. I think they're going to have an approach. I think ChatGPT will have an approach. I think Bing will have an approach. And we're just going to see a lot more innovation in the search space as a result of that.
One thing that I was interested, we kind of touched on this in that second bucket of equity value creation. But if you were a young enterprising founder, right, Aaron Levie of 2006 in 2023, and you have the urge to go start a company in some way, how do you even go about doing that? Like, what would you go do? Would you just think for a while, then start talking to prospective people to validate that idea? Or I assume you work in AI, I would guess, based on your enthusiasm, if you were 20 years old today. But how would you go about doing that?
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely. I'm pretty confident it would be an AI, and but I mean, this is how we did it for Box. Actually, we were pretty. I mean, like as rigorous as 19 and 20-year-olds could be on sort of business strategy. We did like the work. Like we looked at the market, we analyzed the market, we tried to figure out our competitive advantage. We sort of attempted to assume what incumbents might do in the market and how we would compete with them. And so I think that there are some situations where like you just totally, capture a zeitgeist moment, like a Facebook or, a product like that where you build something for fun and it works and it clicks and it takes off and it, sort of takes over the world. There's that category. And I would say like at your own risk, pursue that approach. And then there's the category, which is like, hey, we analyze the market. We think there's an opportunity. If we build better software for this, like then let's go and kind of create this thing. And that's the approach we took. I think AI probably requires a little bit of that as a result of the incumbent advantage that does exist in this space. So like I think if you just go and say like, oh, I built this really cool thing and obviously that it's amazing. And I'm going to pursue this as a startup opportunity. Well, if that cool thing again is like right head on in front of Salesforce and their AI strategy, I would just say like that's going to be very, very hard to scale because Salesforce is going to get very good at this. And the same would be true of, Atlassian or ServiceNow or whatnot. That being said, I think there's a lot of spaces that are either in the blind spots of those incumbents or areas where the business model of those incumbents is in sort of direct conflict with pursuing that opportunity. There's a lot of use cases where you have an enterprise software company that sells seats of software, and they're not going to be as good at going after use cases that either are just you only need one seat of the software to do the whole thing, or they actually reduce the seats of the software by the virtue of using it. And so find opportunities where there's some kind of inherent innovator's dilemma challenge with that incumbent.